Battle of Culloden. How Britain's Civil War ended in blood on the moor. How did a storm of sleet and cannon fire decide the fate of a dynasty? Why did bonny Prince Charlie, the handsome Stuart heir with an Italian accent, lead thousands of hungry Highlanders into the last pitched battle fought on British soil? And what secret of discipline and stubborn resistance made the red-coated regiments stand firm against the legendary Highland charge? Stay with us, because Culloden is a story of courage, chaos, and consequences that echo even today. It was April 16, 1746. The wind howled across the bleak moor, sleet stunned the faces of men, and two armies stood within cannon range of each other. Yet, oddly enough, nobody fired. Why? Because both sides were waiting, the Jacobites for a chance to unleash their famous Highland charge, and the government army for the order to crush them once and for all. It was a tense silence, broken only by the whistling gale and the muttering of hungry soldiers. Commanding one side was Charles Edward Stuart, the handsome, bonny Prince Charlie. Born in Rome, he spoke with an Italian accent but carried the fire of a Stuart heir. His grandfather, James II of England, James VI of Scotland, had been deposed in 1688 for being too Catholic and too dismissive of Parliament. The Protestant nobility had invited William of Orange to take the throne, and James fled into exile. Charlie, at just 25 years old, nearly reversed that fate. In 1745, he landed in the Scottish Highlands, rallied clans to his banner, and marched boldly into England. His Jacobite army reached as far south as Derby before retreating north. Now back in Scotland, he prepared for a decisive stand. The Jacobite army was a patchwork quilt of loyalties. Highland clansmen, fierce warriors wielding claymores, some fighting out of loyalty, others because refusal meant their homes burned. Lowland Scots, culturally different from Highlanders but drawn into the cause. Englishmen and Irishmen, rebels and adventurers who saw opportunity in the Stuart claim. French regiments, sent by France, eager to see Britain destabilized. This was not Scotland versus England. It was a civil war, splitting clans, families, and loyalties. Facing them across the moor was the corpulent Duke of Cumberland, son of King George II and cousin to Charles. He had sworn to crush the rebellion and secure the Hanoverian dynasty. His army was a mix of English and Scottish regiments, including the Royal Scots Regiment, the oldest in the British Army. The Royal Scots Fusiliers, Highland clans loyal to the government, most famously the Campbells, who marched in red coats against their fellow Highlanders. Bonny Prince Charlie arranged his army in two lines, with Highland clans in the front. This was deliberate. The Highland charge, with broadswords flashing and war cries echoing, had broken redcoat lines in nearly every battle of the Rising. The prince hoped for one more miracle, but the miracle was already slipping away. The night before, Charlie had bungled a surprise attack. His men wandered in the dark, never finding the enemy. By dawn, they were cold, hungry, and exhausted. Pride and tradition made matters worse. Clans quarreled over who deserved the most prestigious spot in the battle line. Instead of unity, there was bickering. Instead of confidence, there was fatigue. So there they stood, two armies, 500 meters apart, sleet cutting across the moor, cannons silent, men shivering. On one side, a prince chasing destiny. On the other, a duke determined to crush rebellion. The Jacobites had courage, but the government had discipline, artillery, and numbers. The silence before the storm was the last moment of hope before Culloden became a graveyard for the Jacobite dream. Now pause for a sec. Join the front lines of history and power. We are a community. Go to the comment section, drop a comment on your favorite scene of this story. Also, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications to never miss a moment of the action. European battle, where legends clash. Meanwhile, across the field, the British army under the Duke of Cumberland stood in three disciplined lines, each row bristling with regiments and artillery. Cavalry was placed on the flanks, ready to sweep in like steel wings, while loyal Highlanders, Campbells among them, were stationed behind a walled enclosure on the left. It was a formation designed to absorb shock and then crush rebellion. Around 1 p.m., Jacobite cannons opened fire. The government artillery responded with cold precision. The Royal Artillery crews, veterans of many campaigns, quickly gained the upper hand. For 15 brutal minutes, cannonballs tore through Jacobite ranks, scything off arms, legs, and heads. Mortars lobbed explosive shells into the mass of clansmen. The moor became a butcher's yard. Seeing no other option, Charles ordered the advance. The cry of Claymore, Claymore echoed down the line. Exhausted men surged forward, but the boggy moorland betrayed them. The left flank bogged down and failed to reach the government lines. The center veered right, where firmer soil allowed movement, and soon the Jacobite center and right became a single disorganized mass, bearing down on the government's left flank. Two government regiments, about 900 men, suddenly faced a rebel horde of 2,500. The Jacobites paused to fire muskets and pistols, then drew broadswords and fixed bayonets before charging. Out of the haze, they appeared before the British 4th Regiment. One regiment fired a single volley, another managed two. Smoke hid the carnage. Officers barked orders. "Level bayonets!" The front rank bristled with steel just as the Jacobite surge leapt over the bodies of fallen kinsmen. Contact was savage. Jacobites crashed into red-coated ranks. Swords hacked. Bayonets stabbed. A Scottish captain ran a rebel through with his pike before being cleaved in half by a poleaxe. Nearby, the regiment's colonel had his hand chopped off by a claymore. The regiment was overrun, its flags wavering, its standard-bearer cut down. The Highland charge had always caused redcoats to run. But this time the British held firm. They died where they stood, refusing to break. The Jacobites carved a gap, but instead of open ground, they met a second line of government infantry. 4 fresh regiments moved up, firing methodical volleys, 1 round every 20 seconds. In 5 minutes, thousands of bullets tore into the clansmen. Meanwhile, loyal Highlanders outflanked the Jacobites via a stone wall, adding to the crossfire. Their bagpipes shrieked as volleys crashed like ocean waves. The Jacobite line broke. Cumberland unleashed his dragoons in pursuit. Across the moor, government troops advanced, bayonets bent and bloody. The slaughter did not end with victory. Government soldiers executed Jacobite prisoners and civilians in cold blood, many of them fellow Scots settling old grudges. Charles fled before the battle's end, smuggled across the Highlands and eventually slipping back to mainland Europe. There he lived in exile, descending into alcoholism and depression. Over 100 Jacobites were executed in the weeks after Culloden, and around 1,000 were transported to the colonies. Captured Jacobite flags were burned before cheering crowds in Edinburgh. Culloden marked a turning point for Scotland and Britain. Parliament passed laws banning arms and traditional Highland dress. Though repealed decades later, they hastened the decline of clan culture. Ironically, Highland men joined government regiments in droves, one of the few ways to preserve their traditions legally. With the Stuart threat removed, Britain's century of civil war ended. The homeland was secure, and the government could now look outward, setting the stage for global dominance. Scotland never forgot. By the early 1800s, with the Stuart threat long gone, the nation began to romanticize Bonnie Prince Charlie and the rebellion. Culloden became the subject of nostalgic songs, poems, and even advertisements. The tartan was reintroduced, clan patterns developed, and what had once been outlawed became a proud symbol of Scottish identity. Culloden was a bloody day that ended a dynasty but defined a nation. Don't forget, follow us, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you never miss more intriguing stories from history.